Hi everyone, this is Max from the GSMA mWomen team. Thank you very much for joining our Innovation Fund webinar. A couple of housekeeping notes before we start. If you have colleagues who are not able to join this webinar, please note that the webinar slides and the recording will be available on our website next week. In terms of the agenda for this webinar, first, I will introduce the GSMA mWomen program, and after that, our Innovation Fund. My colleague Priya will then outline the eligibility criteria and explain the application process. A quick note on questions. We very much look forward to hearing your questions and ask that you send them to us via the instant message facility on the webinar dashboard, which you will find at the side of your screen. We'll be covering them after the presentation. So first of all, what is the GSMA? The GSMA is the Trade Association for Mobile Network Operators across the world. Currently, we have about 1,000 organizations as members. Approximately 800 of these are mobile operators, and the other 200 are companies in the broader mobile ecosystem, such as handset manufacturers, software companies, and equipment providers. Mobile for Development is part of the GSMA, and our broad aim is to serve the underserved through mobile. Because mobile is so widespread in emerging markets, we believe it can be used to create social, economic, and environmental impact. Mobile for Development is made up of different programs you might already be familiar with, including Mobile Money for the Unbanked, mAgri, Mobile for Employment, and mHealth. You will notice that the specificity of the GSMA mWomen program is that it cuts across verticals. So how did the GSMA mWomen program start? It began with a report which we published alongside the Chervlev Foundation for Women, where we analyzed women's access to and use of mobile technology in emerging markets. It appeared from the research that was done in 2010 that a significant gender gap existed, with women being 21% less likely to own a mobile phone than their main counterparts in low to middle income countries. This translated to roughly 300 million women at this time. The missed market opportunity for the industry was estimated at around $13 billion US. And this is not to mention the negative impact for the women who do not have access to a mobile in terms of security, access to information, and empowerment, for instance. I'm drawing your attention now to what we have identified as the main barriers that hinder resourceful women's use of mobile phones. Cost, as in total cost of ownership, and cultural norms are the two barriers that first come to mind. However, we have seen that technical literacy, but also the perception of value of women themselves play an important role in not realizing the potential of mobile for them. We encourage you to consider these while developing your application and to clearly point to the specific barriers your project offers to tackle. As a program, we want to encourage industry actors in the development ecosystem to appreciate the women's population as part of their business strategy and to address women's specific wants and needs. When we are talking value-added services, for instance, we refer to the fact that women value economic empowerment, help in accessing capital, health and education opportunities for them and their family. And if services have value for them, they will be more likely to use them and spend money on them. In order to achieve this, we offer assistance to mobile operators and to our partners in the development sector. This could be during the planning phase of a product, which is aimed at low-income women, for example, where we would offer insights into how to conduct customer research or how to handle concept development or product design for this part of the population. The Innovation Fund grants are part of this effort to encourage action, but I will speak more about them shortly. The other key part of what we do is to disseminate insights and lessons learned so that others are encouraged and equipped. We publish research reports, which you can find on our website, as well as case studies of mWomen initiatives and other tools. We are pleased to have seen many mWomen initiatives in the past 2 years, but would like to highlight two as examples. The first one is Indosat, an Indonesian mobile operator part of the Ooredoo Group, who has introduced an offer that specifically targets Indonesian women. With the help of a GSMA mWomen consultant, they have gone through an extensive research and product design phase to capture and best address the wants and needs of this market. The results was Ebat Keluarga, an offer with specific friends and family tariffs and targeted value-added services that has now reached millions of women and paved the way to a variety of other new initiatives targeted at women. The second example comes from Asiacell, an Iraqi operator also part of the Ooredoo Group, who basically applied a similar approach and used consumer research to develop a package based on the wants and needs of women, including attractive off-peak tariffs, step charging, and a service to block harassing calls or SMS. The package is now being used by millions of Iraqi women and has helped Asiacell double the share of women in their overall customer base. Now that you have a better understanding of the objectives and activities of the GSMA mWomen program, let me focus on the Innovation Fund in particular. As I mentioned earlier, the Innovation Fund is one of the mechanisms we use to support and encourage action by mobile operators and those in the development community. Its main objectives are to accelerate efforts to recognize and realize the commercial and social potential of serving underserved women, to foster success by equipping and supporting operators and NGOs as they launch relevant mWomen offerings, and to generate lessons and models of success which can be shared with the mobile industry and development communities. We want to help identify and test solutions for low-income women through what we refer to as offerings. Offerings can, for instance, be a package, including a specific tariff plan like we just saw for Indosat and Asiacell, but also a product or a service like a value-added service that would empower women in their way of managing the household's budget or access to health-related information. We are also considering marketing approaches, for instance, an awareness campaign involving male guardians using below-the-line techniques, or distribution mechanisms leveraging an NGO's on-the-ground network or addressing women's savings group, for example. We are talking today about our current round of grants for both mobile operators and NGOs. For both streams, the grant-funded period will be up to 6 months. By the end of this period, we do expect that the offering will have been launched. We also expect that insights into what works in terms of serving resourceful women will be available for sharing with the development community and mobile industry by the end of this period. The projects are expected to live beyond the grant-funded period and also deliver mid- and long-term results. In this round, we're planning to award 2 to 3 grants to mobile operators. The grants to mobile operators will be for up to $70,000, and the mobile operator will be requested to at least match this contribution, either in cash or in kind. An NGO partner is not compulsory, though we do encourage operators to develop partnerships where appropriate. There will also be 3 to 4 NGO grants for NGOs with no matching required. However, NGOs will have to partner with an MNO. The evidence of such a partnership in the form of a letter of intent or memorandum of understanding will be a key requirement at application stage. My colleague Priya will be detailing the other eligibility requirements shortly. The Innovation Fund's success will be measured in its capacity to help increase the number of women who have access to and use mobile services and life-enhancing mobile value-added services. As a result, we want to see new solutions being tested and proven successful, and we want NGOs and mobile operators to research, design, and test opportunities to service resourceful women in their markets. Therefore, at grant level, success is defined as the design and launch of an innovative and commercially sustainable offering that increases women's access to or use of mobile phones, for which the commercial and social value can be monitored and shared. I will now let my colleague Priya get into more detail regarding project eligibility and application process.
Thank you very much, Max. Now on to some more detail in terms of the eligibility requirements. And as Max said, there are two streams of grants in this round of the Innovation Fund. One is for mobile operators and one is for NGOs working in partnership with mobile operators. In terms of the eligibility requirements, there are some similarities and some differences. So we'll start with those for mobile operators. First of all, in terms of geography, all of Africa, in terms of project location, is eligible. And then we have the Middle East, and then we have South and Southeast Asia. For the organizations, the mobile network operators must be members of the GSMA, and they must be in good financial standing, which means that they need to be able to produce at least 2 years of unqualified audited financial statements. Now, the strategic use of grant funding is one aspect of the concept notes and the applications that will be evaluated during the process. The intention is that grants will fund projects that otherwise wouldn't happen without the seed funding that's being provided. So these grant funds may be used towards professional fees and salaries of consultants who offer expertise or focused time that supplement existing staff capacity. These resources could offer, for example, research, analysis, content development, partnership development, project management, or other specialized skills. And the grant funds may also be applied towards funding secondments of staff who dedicate at least 50% of their time to the project. So in summary, the grant funds can be applied towards a number of activities. It's quite broad. So project management, research, building partnerships, and measuring results, which is actually very important for us, given that we want to draw out commercial and social data. We do require that a certain proportion of the budget is earmarked at an early stage for monitoring and evaluation purposes. Now, in terms of partnerships, for mobile operators, partnerships with NGOs and other organizations are not mandatory, but we do encourage our applicants to think about which types of organizations they can partner with, where appropriate, and where they can add something. In terms of sharing knowledge, given that the Innovation Fund has the objective of encouraging further investment by providing lessons and documenting models of success, our grantees are required to share data and insights which arise from the funded project. So the types of data and the information required will of course vary depending on the project, but could include data regarding the social value of the offering and also commercial data from the operator, such as subscriber data, ARPU numbers, and brand tracker. And grantees are expected to share these insights, of course, with the GSMA mWomen team, but also more widely with other mobile operators and members of the development landscape. Of course, any commercial data will be treated as strictly confidential. Now we move on to the eligibility requirements for NGO applicants. The geographies are the same. In terms of organization, the NGO applicants must be non-profit organizations which are legally registered to operate in the country of the proposed project, and they have to have been in operation for a minimum of 2 years. It's also very important that the NGOs operate at large scale, and by that we mean regional, national, or global. And they must also be in satisfactory financial health, and the same standards apply, at least 2 years history of unqualified audited financial statements. A key difference here, of course, is in the requirements for partnership. So NGOs are required to partner with an appropriate mobile operator. It could be either to support the development or launch of that operator's offering, or to ensure wide-scale distribution of the value-added service or content which the NGO has developed. The concept note, which is the first stage of the process, should contain a clear plan and strategy for the mobile operator partnership, outlining who the operator partner might be. By application stage, the second stage, we expect that the operator partnership must be in place and formalized, for example, in a memorandum of understanding. The applicants who can show evidence of commitment from their MNO partner at an early stage will be seen as more competitive by the fund manager. And please note for the NGOs that the grant funds of $140,000 per grant will be received in full by the applying NGO. Now on to project eligibility and a little bit more of what we're looking for. So we're looking for innovative projects for new initiatives rather than the scaling up of existing ones. And especially for NGOs who may not be so familiar with this domain, it's useful to think about it in two ways. So one, the NGO could use mobile technology as a way to increase its reach and better serve resource-poor women. So the mobile technology acts as an amplifier for what the NGO is already doing, as a way of further disseminating its work and message. This could be through the launch of a new value-added service, for example. The second way is where the NGO helps the mobile operator partner to launch its offering for women. And here the NGO could offer many things. For example, consumer insights through research that has already been done or that will be done. It could offer access to the target population through distribution mechanisms that it has on the ground. The NGO could also organize awareness and education campaigns and content design. On to the three main attributes of the projects that we're looking for. So as we've mentioned, the fund aims to build evidence about sustainable models for serving low-income women. So each project should not only generate evidence of social value, but must also demonstrate a clear plan for sustainability beyond the grant-funded period. So we expect to see from the applicants the following. First of all, what's the operator's economic incentive for participation in this project? And this applies to the applications which are from the mobile operator. So from the operators, we want to see the commercial business case for engaging in this project on a long-term basis. But also for the NGO applicants, we want to see for your mobile operator partners, what's their rationale, commercial rationale for participating in this project. And for our NGO applicants, we also want to see the funding model for the underlying services that you provide. So we get a better idea of how the projects can be sustained on an ongoing basis. It's also crucial that the projects have the potential to reach resource-poor women at a large scale and contain elements which can be replicated in other geographies. So we're looking for organizations which have the reach and the footprint to be able to achieve scale and replicability in other markets. So to summarize, three attributes: economic sustainability, scalability, so that large numbers of resource-poor women can be reached through these projects, and then replicability. Now finally, onto some more detail on the Innovation Fund and the people and organizations which are part of it. So we'll start at the bottom of the slide, the GSMA mWomen team. You've already heard from two of us. We're not part of the decision-making process, which enables us to provide technical advice and assistance. And later on, I'll speak about where we're best placed to provide that assistance. Then we have the fund manager, which is the organization Coffee International. It's independent of the GSMA. Coffee International reviews the concept notes and applications based on their alignment with the Innovation Fund's objectives, which we've outlined today in this webinar. And then finally, we have an independent selection panel, which is made up of individuals with subject matter experience, and they're from the mobile industry and also from the development community. This panel has the final say in terms of grant allocation. So now onto the process of the applications for Innovation Fund grants. The first stage is the concept note stage. That involves preparation of a short a 3-page concept note, which describes the project's objectives, definition of success, the high-level approach, and anticipated deliverables and outcomes, as well as any partners involved. The fund manager, Coffee International, then reviews these concept notes and considers how well they're aligned with the fund objectives and whether they fulfill the criteria of project and organization eligibility, which we've spoken about today. Upon review of all the concept notes, Coffee International then invites a small number of applicants to the next stage to prepare full applications. This second stage is the application stage. And these applications are 10-page forms and attachments, including a work plan, a budget, and a performance monitoring plan. And altogether, this application pack will contain comprehensive details about the project. What will then happen is the final applications will go to the selection panel, who evaluates these applications in detail and awards grants to those which are best positioned to deliver on the fund objectives. We have found in our experience from the previous rounds that applicants who have worked more closely with us, the GSMA and Women team, to develop their applications have been considered more competitive by the selection panel than those who did not. This picture here shows us how the various actors work together and at what stage input is required from each of them. The red boxes are actions of the applying organization. So as you see, you submit the concept note, which is reviewed by the fund manager. A certain number are then invited to submit full applications, and then those full applications are reviewed by the selection panel, which has the final say in deciding which applications get awarded grants. And where the GSMA and Women team can provide most help is in the development and writing of applications. We can't encourage you enough to make use of our help and support during the application stage. Now on to some important dates in the timeline that we have here. So please take a note of these. They can also be found in all the documentation, which can be downloaded from our website, which is www.mwomen.org. The first one is the deadline for concept notes to be sent to us. All of these deadlines are 5 p.m. UK time, and the first important deadline is, of course, that of the concept notes, which are due on Friday, the 1st of November of this year. Please note that we will not be able to accept any concept note submissions after this day. And it's the same deadline for NGO applicants as well as mobile operator applicants. A couple of notes on concept notes. In order for them to be reviewed by Coffee International, they must be in the correct format, which can be downloaded on our website. They must adhere to the word limit and page limit, which is 4 pages in total, including the cover sheet. And finally, they must be in English. Unfortunately, we're not able to review concept notes in other languages. Many thanks for listening. We hope you found this useful and informative. The slides and recording of this webinar will be available on our website. And now we'll move on to some question and answers. We'll be answering the questions you've been sending through. Thank you very much for your time. We have a question here about whether the budget for this type of grant can cover the provision of mobile and tablet devices. That's a good question and one that we hear quite often. Of course, it is possible to do so, but what we're looking for is long-term sustainable projects. And we have found in the past that those we have seen, which involve the provision of handsets or devices for free, are not sustainable and scalable because of that. So generally, those types of projects have not been considered competitive by the fund manager. I hope that answers your question. We have another question. If the measuring and evaluation for the project can be funded by another grant other than the innovation grant, is it still necessary for a percentage of the grant to go to M&E? That's also a good question. Absolutely. If you're lucky enough to be able to fund the monitoring and evaluation for this project from another grant, that's absolutely fine. And we'll be very happy to see that you have other sources of funding which you can put towards this project. So that sounds absolutely fine. We encourage everyone, if you have questions, please send them through using the question facility on the dashboard. We have another question about mobile operator partners. Yes, it is indeed mandatory that mobile operator partners are registered members of the GSMA. And that is the same whether the grant is going directly to the mobile operator or whether it's a mobile operator partner of the NGO. In either case, all mobile operator participants must be registered with the GSMA. We have a question about further rounds of Innovation Fund grants. This is the 4th round of Innovation Fund grants that we have so far, and at the moment it is the last one that we have planned. So we do not have further rounds of Innovation Fund grants planned. If that changes, we will let you know. But we encourage you to, if you have ideas for projects, please try to send them through by the deadline of the 1st of November, because we don't think that there will be further rounds. A question about NGOs and whether it's possible for an NGO operating outside the region to partner with a local NGO. Yes, that's absolutely possible, and we can understand why that would be necessary in order to get the local knowledge and the local networks, etc. Just one word of caution. Obviously, the more partners you have in a project, it can sometimes get a little bit more complicated to manage the partners and manage the various stakeholders. So if you do decide to go down that route, we would encourage you to include in your concept note a clear plan of how the various partnerships would be managed and where you intend to get the human resource to manage those partnerships. But in theory, that's absolutely fine. Yes, we have another question about a chance to apply next year to give applicants more time to contact the operators and to get a commitment and buy-in from the operators. As I just mentioned, we do not currently have plans to launch further rounds of grants next year.
We got another question on any advice for what convinces GSM operators to start a partnership. Well, basically, in the case of NGO grants in particular, we really see it as a win-win partnership. What the GSM operator will bring is basically its understanding of the business and of the commercial sustainability of the project, while the NGO will often bring the understanding of the social impact and also access to the end customer on the ground. We also have another question, which is, can you introduce us to mobile network operators in our region, probably coming from an NGO? The answer is no. This is not the type of services that we can provide.
Thank you very much. These are great questions, and we're sure they're useful to all of our audience. So we'll wait another few minutes to see if we have any more coming through.
One of you is asking us if we can cite some successful NGO example. Unfortunately, the third round that we had was about NGOs, but the selection panel meeting is to happen in the coming days, so we cannot disclose so far any information about these. However, what we can say is that the successful one are very likely to be the one where the partnership with the MNO is strongly defined, and where basically the project is, as Priya mentioned earlier, not only commercially sustainable, but also scalable and replicable.
In terms of contacting us for more information, two things. First of all, there's a lot of information and the necessary documentation on our website. So we encourage you to go to www.mwomen.org and download the relevant documentation. There are two sets. One is for NGO applicants and one is for MNO applicants. So please have a look at the detailed term sheet, which will help you to fill in the concept note template, which must be filled in, and also an overview, which contains similar information to what we've presented today. Then in terms of writing to us, we're very happy to hear from you directly. So please email mwomengrants, all one word, at gsma.com. We'll just wait another minute to see if anybody has further questions for us on the webinar. And if not, please, as I said, don't hesitate to write to us with any questions or requests for information. Right, it looks like that's it for today. So once again, thank you so much for your time and for participating and some very good questions. We wish you all a good day and a great weekend. Thank you very much.